Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Space Monkey Mafia here. If you guys kind of wanted any insight into my mental state or financial situation, I couldn't find a stand for the little camera today for my little fish tank background, but I could find my worm cultures. So, camera's just sitting on top of a bunch of micro worm and white worm and black worm cultures. Have fun watching from there, guys. Oh, and it's also Spooky Sunday. I really didn't mean to time that or anything. It just sort of happened. So hey, I guess that means every Sunday's gonna be Spooky Sunday from now on. This first one's called the Red Water Lily. At age 12, I found a red water lily floating in the canal close to my house. The colors were rich and vibrant, the deepest shade of vermilion I'd ever come across in nature. It was so vivid that it seemed unnaturally so, like someone had manufactured it in a lab and then placed it there for all to enjoy. I passed that red water lily every day of the summer holidays. As the days wore on, so did my fascination with it. I found myself drawn to it, unable to take my eyes off it. Under my gaze, the flower seemed to pulse with life, its petals deepening so that they appeared black until I blinked and suddenly they were red again. It was the only red lily in the entire canal. Unique. Special. Mine. I spent my nights studying horticulture. Nowhere could I find anything about the red water lily, but I learned all I could about the environments they grew in, what seasons they bloomed in, even how to grow my own. Our backyard had a tiny pond. If I could somehow steal the lily and transplant it into my own yard, it could be mine and mine alone, forever. 2 weeks before summer ended, I took the plunge, literally. I followed the lily's roots down, careful not to disturb them for fear I might harm the plant. I knew they would be embedded in the canal floor, and if I could uproot them gently, the flower would be mine. The canal was deeper than I expected, and as my hands touched the bottom, I realized the roots weren't buried there, but in the side. No big deal. I wrapped my hand around them, braced against the wall, and pulled. Nothing. I yanked harder. The roots were embedded deep. I scratched at the dirt, but rather than dislodging it, my fingers went through it. It wasn't dirt. It was hemp. A sack, to be exact, lodged in the canal wall. I let go of the roots and tore it open. I screamed, water filling my nose and mouth and lungs. A gaunt white face stared back at me. The lily's roots were buried deep in its neck. The murder was never solved, and I never got my flower. I couldn't stop thinking about it, though. I dreamt about it night after night for years. It consumed me. The flower died once the body was removed, and its beauty with it. I spent my life trying to figure out how the flower got its unique color, how the roots embedded themselves in the body, how they drew nutrients from it. I haven't yet replicated the process, but I'll keep trying. I discovered one vital piece of information from the police reports that I didn't know as a child. The missing piece that's kept me from my goal. The body wasn't dead when they were buried in the canal wall. One more try. Nobody will notice she's gone. Why I stopped working for Grubhub. I pulled up at this old Mexican restaurant that I'd never seen before. Kind of a ring-dingy looking place. Walking up to the counter, I checked the order on my phone. Hey man, I'm picking up an order for, Jeff D? The man's face went pale, but quickly perked back up. "One moment, please," he said, turning to walk into the kitchen. I looked around. No one else seemed to be eating there. No other employees were walking out front. I pulled up my phone to browse Reddit when I heard screaming coming from the back. What on earth? I muttered to myself. I debated walking back there to make sure everything was okay, but the man swiftly came back to the counter with the order. "That'll be $442.12. He was sweating profusely, and his eyes didn't match the smile on his face. I checked the order on my phone. That much for a pound of chopped beef? Whatever, it's not my money. Jeff had already paid by credit card on the app. He pushed the parcel into my hands. I noticed that his arms looked a bit bloody. Whatever, it's probably just sauce or something. I drove off, listening to my relaxed playlist on Spotify, listening to the GPS direct me to my destination. I pulled up about 14 minutes later. The place looked abandoned. It was a burned-down house next to the woods. Confused, I called the number I was given. 3 rings and someone picked up. "Hey man, is this Jeff? I pulled up to the address, but I think it's wrong." "No, I see you. You're in the right spot. Be there in a sec." And he hung up. About a minute passed and I saw someone coming out of the woods. I rolled down the window. "Hey, are you Jeff?" "Yeah man, you got my order?" He walked up to the car as I pulled out his bag. "Thanks," he said, grabbing it. He opened it up and it was a human foot. Greedily, he began to take huge bites, blood spattering on his face. I looked on in horror, ready to take off. "Hold on a second, man," he said, suddenly stopping. I froze, just staring at him. He began to reach into his pocket. Pulling it out quickly, he handed something to me. It was $40. "Have a good night," he said, grinning, walking back into the woods. I have a desk job now. Screw delivering food. You never know what kind of people you'll end up seeing. The funniest thing about that one is what everyone was saying in the comments. A bunch of the comments are just people saying that he didn't tip enough. Because, I mean, I know tipping varies depending on where you are in the world, and that a lot of places don't tip at all. But for the US, the typical tip is 20%. He gave him less than a 10% tip, which is less than half of what he should have given. And he ate a human foot right in front of the guy. Like, of course you'd get a desk job after that. I mean, that's just rude, honestly. They came from below. I was pouring half and half into my morning coffee, watching the news out of the corner of my eye. Deer population is at an all-time high. Bounties are being placed to help prevent. I stopped paying attention and walked upstairs to crawl back in bed with my wife. They are calling a culling for the deer population, I chuckled, taking a sip from my dark roast. Why can't they just leave the poor deer alone? My wife replied. I pulled out my phone to browse online. Well, the deer will eat up all their food and die out slower. This way they don't suffer, sweetheart. I suddenly got an emergency alert. Stay inside, doors locked, don't make any loud noises, and stay away from windows. We are trying to identify these creatures as the worldwide death toll is in the millions. Militaries worldwide have been deployed. I was confused. What? Look at this, I said, handing my phone to my wife. Is this a prank? She said, handing it back. With a quick Google search, I saw it wasn't. News outlets worldwide were going crazy over this. I pulled up a video on BBC. The creatures emerged not too long ago, maybe an hour or two ago, but the effect has been devastating. They seem to only be targeting people. Large holes in the ground indicate that they came from below. Here was some footage sent in by a viewer on the streets. They were horrifying. They'd rip people apart with no mercy. They stood about 12 feet tall, black purplish skin, extremely muscle-bound, large white eyes. They killed with their bare hands, teeth, or using primitive weapons. I had no idea what their weapons were made out of, and they were capable of hurling them at great speeds, easily able to rip through the armor of tanks. The onslaught continued for 3 months. Despite all of our technology, we were no match. They were unfazed by bullets and explosives seemed to only stun them. As quickly as they appeared, they left back underground. Around 75 to 80% of the human population was wiped out. I suddenly had a realization. They had saved us. They prevented us from over-consuming our resources. The remaining population rebanded, migrating from their homes to populate certain designated areas. Starvation, pollution, depleting natural resources. None of this was an issue anymore. I couldn't understand their true intentions, but now I guess I understand what it's like to be a deer. Relax, don't look, and you'll be fine. Why is looking so hard? All I have to do is look. Open my eyes and look. Life is never that simple, though. I knew the bodies that surrounded me were no longer pumping blood, but it didn't exactly fill me with pain or empathy. I was the safe one, but I still felt scared. If I look, I'll probably die from shock. The screams were dying down by now, but I could still hear them. Every now and then a teeny little bellow would reach my eardrums. Just relax, okay? Relax? Yeah, okay, buddy, I'll relax. The instrument he was about to use sounded just like a large electric saw. I still wasn't gonna look, though. Screw that. The girl didn't make it, said the other guy. I knew there were more than one of them, but how many, I had no idea. More screams erupted. Guess they all know about the girl who didn't make it. Ugh, I've been here for hours now. What do you need? Asked one to the other. A screwdriver and a small electric saw, replied his friend. The sound was horrendous. If only I could move my hands to cover my ears. All they kept saying was, relax. I felt no pain whatsoever when the blade hit my skin. I felt the pressure of his body weight, though. Oof, he was heavy. Got it, he said. He didn't care how close he was to my ears. To be honest, by this point, neither did I. Okay, guys, take her down. My eyes remained tightly closed the entire time. I had the warmth of his body, to which I was highly grateful for, but fear kept my eyes clamped shut. It took roughly 10 or so minutes before we finally reached the ground. You can open your eyes now, sweetie. It's all over. The shock of half a missing leg was enough to make me see darkness. I'm never going on a fairground ride again. And that about wraps things up for today. I hope you guys liked it. I really like the little short stories and stuff. I'll probably do another one during the week. If you guys liked the video, like, comment, subscribe, all that good little stuff. I hope you guys did like it, and if you did, I'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye.